Good morning, and welcome to Affordable Lender Showcase Down Payment Assistant and Layering Opportunities for Low to Moderate Income Borrowers. This is a NARAB production, and I am very proud to be your host. I'm Trent Bowman. I'm the Vice President for Community Impact Manager for Bremer Bank, and I have three knowledgeable experts in the industry that we are going to be talking to today. So we have Tiffany Phillips, who's a Mortgage Community Development Loan Officer, Joannette Cintrón, Community Development Outreach Officer at Old National Bank, and Tiffany is with Bell Bank Mortgage, my apologies, and George Gershon, Branch Manager or Producing Branch Manager for Movement Mortgage. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here and with you guys and to talk about some really, really good dynamic information when it comes to affordable housing. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, of the topic and the discussion that we're going to have, Joannette, tell us something about yourself and why are you passionate about this topic?
Thank you, Trent. I'm Joannette Cintrón with Old National Bank, and I have a background in mortgage for over 20 years. But what I'm the most passionate about is homeownership, for people to have their own space, home, where they can feel they belong to.
Nice. And Tiffany?
Well, a little bit about me and why I'm passionate. I grew up in Chicago, moved here as a young girl, and I come from a family of generations of renters. So my grandparents were renters. My parents are still renters. And I was the first person in my family to become a homeowner. And I just see the impact of that, the benefit of that, as it relates to my son and how he was able to flourish in school. And I just want to help other people achieve that dream of homeownership as well.
Nice. George?
Thanks, Mr. Bowman. George Gershon. I'm a producing branch manager for Movement Mortgage, 25 years in the business. And I think the benefit to me is why I love this topic so much is we're able to provide the education and the opportunity for everybody to become a homeowner. We're able to provide resources that person or persons may not know are there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no feeling that matches getting a first-time home buyer in a home, and especially like Tiffany mentioned, a first-generation home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a wonderful feeling, and it's all worth it at that point.
Nice. And I'm also passionate as well. Here we at Bremer, it's about cultivating thriving communities, but I'm also about, that dream home. The dream home is the home you can afford. And this panel is really, I think we all have the same messaging, and we're trying to change families. We're trying to change lives, one family at a time. So let's get into the meat and the potatoes of the questions. Let's because this is some good information that we're going to be talking about. And let's start with you, Joannette. Share with us some of the products that you have available at Old National Bank.
Yes. At Old National Bank, we have designed our very own portfolio mortgage loan program called Home Manager. And it's designed for entry-level first-time home buyers that are looking and considering to doing an entry, the minimum down payment as possible. It's a conventional mortgage that requires a minimum of 3% down payment.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that 3%, only $500 need to be your own funds. So it gives you some affordability piece there. Also, it is designed without price.
Like Tiffany mentioned, a first-generation home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a wonderful feeling, and it's all worth it at that point.
Nice. And I'm also passionate as well. Here we at Bremer, it's about cultivating thriving communities, but I'm also about, that dream home. The dream home is the home you can afford. And this panel is really, I think we all have the same messaging, and we're trying to change families. We're trying to change lives, one family at a time. So let's get into the meat and the potatoes of the questions. Let's because this is some good information that we're going to be talking about. And let's start with you, Joannette. Share with us some of the products that you have available at Old National Bank.
Yes. At Old National Bank, we have designed our very own portfolio mortgage loan program called Home Manager. And it's designed for entry-level first-time home buyers that are looking and considering to doing an entry, the minimum down payment as possible. It's a conventional mortgage that requires a minimum of 3% down payment. And out of that 3%, only $500 need to be your own funds. So it gives you some affordability piece there. Also, it is designed without private mortgage insurance, and that private mortgage insurance could be a couple $100 a month as a component of your mortgage payment. So it does not require it. Also, it has a fixed rate for 30 years at market rates. So it's a very affordable market rate interest rate fix. And it gives you the opportunity to purchase your first home or townhouse, condo, or within an association.
Nice, nice,
Yes.
awesome. Sounds like a wonderful product.
Yes.
Tiffany, tell us, share us the products that you have at Bell Mortgage.
Thankfully, we have a wide range of products, and most of us, actually, all of us at this table, do traditional financing like conventional FHA, VA, and rural development. But in addition, we have like special programs for physicians. I also help people with construction lending. But what I like to spend some time talking about today is Bell's 1% down product. It's called Bell Moving Forward Advantage. It allows a future home buyer to purchase a house with just 1% down. And the beauty of that 1% down is it doesn't even need to come from you. That 1% down can come from a down payment assistance program. We also have our own down payment assistance program that can also fund that 1% down. Minimum credit score is 620. So we can, get you a loan. We typically get all three of your credit scores, and we'll throw out the lowest one and throw out the highest one and look for that middle one to be at least 620. There are some income limits, but most people looking to purchase their first home can generally fall within the income limits. It's 100% of the area median income, and right now it's like 125 or somewhere around there. So most people can fall in line with that program. And similar to Joannette's program at Old National, it also does not have borrower paid private mortgage insurance. So you can save yourself money on that. And as you see on the screen, it's some information about our down payment assistance loan. So we do have a loan that Bell then funds for up to 2% of the purchase price for an individual. Now, it's great that we have this in our tool belt as an option. And I typically compare it to other loans. Like I said, we do conventional loans and FHA loans too. So as a loan officer, it's important for me to identify all the loans that my borrower could potentially use and then help them identify which one makes the most sense for them based on their debt and their incomes and that sort of thing.
And I like that you give your clients or your borrowers options.
Yes, yes, for sure.
I mean, I think that's just a key ingredient, especially when we're working with first-time home buyers, giving them the opportunity or showing them the different products and programs that they can possibly qualify for.
For sure, because we don't want to pinhole them into a product that may not be the best one for them. So we should definitely give them options.
I like that. Mr. Gershon, same question.
Same question. Oh. Well, as Tiffany and Joannette both mentioned, the conventional programs, the FHA, the USDA, and the VA loans. Being a correspondent lender, we have a few other outlets such as self-employed loans, persons coming from new Americans to the United States. We have ITIN loans, DACA loans, stated income loans. And I wanted to mention that right now, correspondent lender at Movement Mortgage, we are the #1 rural development lender in the country, #5 in FHA, and #4 in VA. So we do the conventional loans very well, but we now have 100% FHA program. We're no money down FHA loan. And I know once we go into one of the later questions about down payment assistance, we'll break it down a little. But we wanted to create a loan with a credit score of 620, higher income limits, higher debt to income ratio of 55%. We all know 90% of Americans, I think the statistic was 90% of Americans in the last 2 quarters are using more credit card debt than ever. So we know that our debt to income ratio is going to be a little higher than in the past. So we want to allow a 620 credit score and higher debt to income ratios up to 55%.
Oh, wow.
And it's also not a census tract. We don't want to tell person or persons where they can live, where this loan can be. So anywhere that you find a home with 100% FHA financing, we'll also throw 1.5% of closing costs on top of that for you. I think I'm excited to talk about later in the down payment about the Movement Boost program, Trent.
Nice. As you can see, all the panelists have wonderful products and programs. And we also here at Bremer Bank also have a great product. We call it our Gateway product, which is a 3% conventional product. You can go with the 640 credit score. It's within the area median income though, but it's still a great conventional product. No MI, and it's a portfolio product. So it's a product that Bremer keeps on their books. So as you can see, these panelists are equipped with knowledge, and they've got a lot of good stuff that they're working with. Now, you guys know, because you guys know me, credit scores are a huge deal with me. So what credit scores does someone really need to have? And does your credit score affect the interest rate? And I'll start with you, George.
Yeah, so credit score, our minimum credit score to start off with that is 580 for an FHA loan. But I to qualify for our down payment assistance, you need a 620. In Minnesota Housing, the state agency that we all, both Tiffany and Joannette, we all use, and yourself as well, Trent. And they have guidelines of 640 for conventional and 650 for FHA. And I feel like those scores are manageable, and I feel like they're fair credit scores. But again, we go down to 580 for FHA, 620 for conventional, 620 for our Movement Boost program, which is the 100% FHA financing. And then every of these little other programs they work with, they have their own credit score requirements.
Okay. Tiffany, what about you?
I like that George pointed out, their scores are lower. And then when you use a down payment assistance program, some of them may have their own score. So different banks have different risk appetites and kind of what they feel comfortable lending in. As I stated when I was talking about my Bail Moving Forward Advantage program, our minimum score is 620 for that program, but we can do loans with scores as low as 600 overall at Bail. But if we're looking to use this affordable product with 1% down, then that's going to look for a 620 credit score. And to George's point, most of my clients use Minnesota Housing for down payment assistance because they never run out of money. They have a really high income limit, and you can buy anywhere in the state. So they're 640 and 650, but the appetite is different from bank to bank. So consumers will see some variances there.
Right. And same question to you, Joannette.
Yes. So we also offer Minnesota Housing, and I'm not going to repeat the requirements because they already stated that. Thank you. But for our very own internal portfolio loan product for Home Manager, the minimum credit score is 600. It's pretty flexible. And also, if you don't have a traditional credit score on your credit report, we are able to consider an offer non-traditional credit as an option. Your verification of rent, utilities paid on time for the past 12 months, that could be an option. So there's options out there. Just a matter of you listening to this podcast and making informed decisions.
Awesome. And as you can see, everyone has all of their products, are based on anywhere as low as 580 to 620 to 640. But me personally, I love the 640s. I love the 620s. But I want clients to have the high 700 credit scores. And that's just my own personal philosophy, because I want you to be VIP. I want you to be able to qualify for all the products and programs. I don't want you to be limited just to, a 620 or a 640 product or program. But all of the programs that you guys offer are phenomenal. And it still gives an individual an opportunity. And that's the key. Whether you've got a 700, if you don't have a 700 credit score and you do have that 640 or you do have that 580, you have an opportunity now. You have an opportunity to be a homeowner. You have an opportunity to have the chance to start building wealth within your family structure. So, great stuff, you guys. Joannette, do you need 20% to purchase a home?
Trent, thank you for asking that question. That's one of the oldest myths in the industry, and the answer is no. You do not need that 20% to purchase your first home. If you have it, great, but if you don't, there's many options out there. So please reach out to one of us here or your local housing nonprofit agencies to provide more options.
Nice. So you hear that, people out there, fans, the world. You do not need 20% to buy a house. So keep that in mind. Tiffany, what are the down payment assistance programs you offer?
So there's so many programs. We are so fortunate in the Twin Cities metro area to have a plethora of down payment assistance programs. So at Bell, we have an in-house one. I mentioned it a little earlier. We offer up to 2% down towards your down payment. But in addition to that, so you can use this program and pair with like a normal conventional 3% down loan and allow this 2% to help make up your 3%. But in addition to that, a lot of cities and counties and local nonprofits have down payment assistance programs that we work with, and we could potentially layer it with this program and build upon it to help people afford more, right? So I'm working with someone right now. They're going to use 3 different down payment assistance programs. We're going to get them 20 from Community Keys, another 20 from Minneapolis Home, and they're going to get 16,500 from Minnesota Housing. So that's helping them with their affordability so they can afford a home in this market.
Can you explain the terms when it comes to down payment assistance programs? You know, there are certain programs that are termed through the life of the loan, but some terms can be shorter.
Yeah.
And can you explain the terms, the different terms, and the advantages and disadvantages of layering multiple down payment assistance based on term?
You know, ideally, I advise my clients to borrow what they need in order to get the house that they need for their family, but not more than what they need, because ultimately, most of these programs are loans that are to be paid back. So it's equity you won't realize down the road because these loans need to be paid back. Now, there are some programs that are forgiven. If you live in the house for a period of time, 3, 5, 7, 10 years, the loans can be forgiven. So it's important that you have that conversation with your loan officer based on where you want to live about the different programs that are available. Some down payment assistance programs are not deferred. Most of them are, meaning you'll pay it back down the road. But some of them require a monthly payment where you make a monthly payment right now as you're in the home and paying your first mortgage down. So there are so many options. I'm so thankful that we have all these options available for consumers. But one thing for consumers to know is not all lenders work with all down payment assistance programs. So that's why when you go talk to a housing counselor or a housing advisor, they will suggest you to meet with multiple lenders so you understand all the programs that are available for you.
Nice. And I'd like to also get, George, your perspective on the same question when it comes to terms, at movement. You know, what is your philosophy or your guys' best practice when it comes to layering down payment assistance programs?
Well, I'll say this is a Georgism, not a Movement Mortgage philosophy, but everybody at the table, including yourself, Trent, Joannette, and Tiffany, we all teach education, home stretch multiple times per month. And our goal is, the reason we're here is generational wealth. And sometimes, like Tiffany mentioned, you have to layer these products together to allow the persons to get into a home that they otherwise would not afford. However, if you don't have to borrow money that you have to pay back, don't do it, because even though it's deferred for 30 years, when you go to sell your house, you're limiting some of that profit, which is generational wealth, either for yourself or your family. And again, some of these programs, depending on income limits, do have to be paid back over 10 years as the same interest as the first mortgage. There are some grants out there, but again, as both Joannette and Tiffany mentioned, most of these are loans that you have to pay back. So why borrow money if you don't have to?
Right.
And all these have interest applied to it if you have to pay it back. But again, we have so many opportunities in the state of Minnesota. For example, Minnesota Housing, you can buy a house anywhere in the state of Minnesota. We're not going to tell you where you live. So Movement Mortgage, we're doing a couple different things right now. We're piloting special purpose credit in 4 or 5 states across the country. And we're excited about that program. And we're also piloting a Movement Mortgage grant where instead of telling persons you have to live in Cook County, Chicago, you have to live in here, we're doing it the reverse. We're going to see where you live now. And if you're on that track where you live now, wherever you're departing, you can buy a house anywhere.
Nice.
And
nice.
you still get the $5,000 or $7,500 Movement Mortgage grant.
Nice.
So again, as Tiffany and Joannette mentioned, there's so many resources out here. And I think the key to this podcast and all the nonprofits that are out there, resources. Go to your nonprofit first and have that financial counselor or advisor send you on to the person that they think best fit your needs.
Nice.
That's a good point you bring up, George. The homeownership advisors and the counselors, we've mentioned going to them. Most of our programs, especially our affordable lending, 3% down, 1% down, they require home buyer education.
Yes.
So if you're going to use a down payment assistance program or one of these affordable lending programs, you will be required to take down payment assistance, home buyer education. So connecting with those nonprofits ahead of time when you're first starting to think about the possibility of home ownership would be advantageous for you. So you get all this information up front.
Nice.
And a lot of them offer those classes at no cost because NARAP sponsors those.
I agree 100%.
Yep.
And there are a number of nonprofit organizations that do teach the home stretch course. PPL is one, Project Pride for Living, Minneapolis Urban League, PRG, the Powderhorn Group, NIDA is another one. Model Cities.
Yeah.
So, reach out to some of these organizations, when it comes to the first-time home buyer classes. Joannette, I also want to just kind of circle back with you, kind of ask the same question, but in a kind of different format. Again, layering down payment assistance at your bank and your team, how do you get people to understand when you're using down payment assistance to purchase the home they can afford and not the home they want? And that's a key element there, because again, we all want what we want,
Yes.
but can we really afford it? Could you just touch on that just a little bit?
Yes. So at Old National Bank, we offer many down payment assistance options, right? And like we've been mentioning here, they all have their own requirements. Some have repayment terms, some don't, etc. So it's making that informed decision from whether you qualify for state agency down payment assistance like Minnesota Housing, county-specific down payment assistance like Hennepin County, Ramsey County, and others that offer down payment assistance. City-specific down payment assistance, different cities throughout the Twin Cities that offer those, and neighborhood-specific down payment assistance, right? There's many options to choose from. So we do a consultation, right, before that we begin the process to kind of understand where it is that they like to live, where is it that they live now, what are the current goals, what is their that payment goal, right? Once you begin taking the home stretch course, that 8-hour course that we all volunteer at, and there's a chapter in a process of completing your own budget, right? What is that budget? You know your budget best, whether you qualify for your dream home now or later. What is that budget? What are your commitments? Not only reporting on your credit report, but other extracurricular activities that you may have, like if you have kids doing sports, those things cost money, right? So we take we consult and talk about that overall picture to see what that looks like and see what might be available and what might fit their goals, right? Because and keeping in mind that making your own notes, taking your own notes, making your own informed decisions, because some of these down payment assistance are here to help you to get into home ownership, but keeping in mind that some of them, if you need to repay them back, or they may impact the equity on your property once you sell it or refinance. What does that mean? Right.
Excellent. I love the key word she said was consultation. And I love that. Because I honestly believe first-time home buyers need to have that one-on-one. I use the term at Bremer, consultation before application. Let's sit down, let's talk about lifestyle. Let's talk about, as Joannette just talked about, do you have kids, and are they in extracurricular activities, and can you maintain lifestyle? And that's the key. What we don't want to happen, and this is why we're doing this podcast. This is why we're talking about, the Affordable Lender Showcase. This is why we're talking about down payment assistance, because we don't want to go backwards from what happened in 2008. We don't want individuals to have that mortgage crash and lose their mortgage. We want people to be able to buy the home, afford the home, maintain the home, enjoy the home. Yep. So this is why this is so awesome. And I'm just, again, this is just a pleasure to have all three of you here. And once again, I'm going to introduce, say who you are again. Joannette Cintrón from Old National Bank, Tiffany Phillips from Bell Bank, and George Gershon from Movement Mortgage. You guys are fantastic. And we're going to keep it rolling. So Tiffany, can you talk about some of the customers that you're serving?
As a community development loan officer that specializes in first-time home buyers achieving the dream of home ownership, most of my clients are using some form of down payment assistance. I mentioned my one client that I'm working with right now that we're going to use 3 programs for her. That allows her to put 20% down. She avoids private mortgage insurance, making it affordable for her. Otherwise, she would not be able to achieve it affordably for her. I have another client who, when we look at debt to income and what's affordable, she can afford a mortgage payment of $1,200. When we look at the price of homes in the area and the interest rates, it wasn't going to give her a mortgage that allowed her to find a house. So at Bell, we participate in community land trust. So I referred her to one of our community land trust partners, and she's going to get $125,000 from Rondo, allowing her to purchase a house for $240,000. She'll get that $125,000 from Rondo, and now her mortgage is on $115,000. That allows her to afford that payment at $1,200. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to achieve home ownership in our area. So it's being able to use programs like that to help people with income, not necessarily income limitations, but debt affordability limitations, help them achieve home ownership as well. So I'm just thankful to have access to programs like that. And in addition to that Rondo program, we're going to use a down payment assistance program to help her with her closing costs. So it's just a beautiful way to help people achieve home ownership who may not otherwise have been able to.
Nice. And I want to stay with you on that because you mentioned land trust. And land trust has been around for a long time, but I don't know if the community really trusted, the concept of land trust. Can you just speak on, is land trust the new way moving forward because of the market, because of the values of homes going up and doesn't seem to be coming down? So can you just touch a little more on land trust and why it could benefit a lot of the new or up and coming first time home buyers or consumers?
Yeah, I love that question. I think it's great that we have land trust as an option, but it is not for everyone. So when you go to sell your home, that home will forever be an affordable house. So it allows another person to come in and enjoy that home affordably as well. But in order for that to happen, you have to forego some of your equity. So you're going to split the equity with the land trust. But what I like to tell people, the people that use land trust in my client base would not otherwise be able to afford home ownership. So I like to say, although you're going to have to split your equity with the land trust, you'd rather have a portion of something than 100% of nothing. So if you're comparing using a land trust and taking advantage of that subsidy for up to $125,000 to not doing it because you don't want to split your equity and you want to remain a renter, then you're not going to have any equity. So again, it's not for everyone. There are multiple land trusts available in the metro. I work closely with Rondo. They cover St. Paul and suburban Ramsey County. There's also one called City of Lakes, covers the city of Minneapolis. And then Western Hennepin Affordable Land Trust will cover the suburbs of Minneapolis, Maple Grove, St. Louis Park, those areas. And all of them are offering up to six figures for families to afford homes that work for them. And it is something that more and more people are needing because interest rates are up there near 7%. The average cost of homes are over $350,000. So people are needing more help with affordability, and having programs like that just allows more people to achieve it.
Awesome. So audience, listen, she just threw out some nuggets. Gold nuggets,
Gold nuggets.
Pay attention, to these options. Again, keyword options. These individuals are giving you options. They're not going to pigeonhole you into just one product, one program. They're going to give you a wide variety of options on what you can qualify for and what's going to best meet your family. George, you talked about earlier when you introduced yourself and some of the products that you say Movement has. Can you just take a deeper dive into the I-10 program that Movement offers, and why is that program so important?
I can. I wanted to comment on Tiffany real fast. And Rondo has a special place in her, but what a great way, as we know, Highway 94 went right through Rondo's in the 60s, and what a great way to bring Rondo back in the community, back in the legacy program. So that's
100%.
Thanks for doing that. At Movement Mortgage, like an I-10 program, we have a lot of persons who live in the Minnesota area that don't quite have their social security number, I-10 number. And Movement Mortgage currently has a 15% down I-10 program. We're working on a 10% I-10 program. And we feel that everybody should have the opportunity, again, to be a homeowner.
Right.
And there's a need for the program. And of course, there's going to be some people that don't want to take the risk, but Movement feels like it's important to offer the I-10 program. And something else I want to cover, Trent, you mentioned what customers are we serving? Another myth out there is down payment assistance programs. The customers we serve are affluent buyers, anybody from a 620 credit score to an 820 credit score. There's niches. And when you use down payment assistance, if you have a 650 to an $800 on a regular loan, the rate's going to vary because of credit score. With down payment assistance, a lot of time the rates don't vary. For example, the state of Minnesota, they want everybody to have the same rate, equality. They want everybody to have the opportunity to buy a house. We have borrowers where the income limits on some of these programs are $175,000. The past through COVID, post-pandemic, we don't know what a person has going on in their life, and we can't assume that down payment assistance programs are for persons with bad credit or no money. I mean, some of these limits, you'll notice that I believe these programs realize that the AMI, the average median income, and the income limits, they're raising them. You know, so I believe it's not just for persons who need help. It's for everybody from low income to high to moderate income, affluent borrowers. Maybe they have a life experience happening, but down payment assistance is for everybody, not just people with bad credit or no money.
Right.
And with the movement boost, something cool about that is, in Movement Mortgage, we service over 90% of our loans, and a lot of down payment assistance programs, they're through other banks or agencies where the servicing rights are sold. We made a conscious decision at Movement Mortgage that we want to maintain the service and our clients and to treat them the same as everybody if you're getting a rated conventional FHA loan. So we've decided to service our own Movement Boost program. So we will service and keep those in-house because then we can service our clients and our customer base as we do everybody else.
It's almost like a portfolio product.
It is. If I was a bank, it'd be like a portfolio product. But since we're not a bank, it's kind of like a portfolio product.
Right.
I'm gonna use that, Trent.
All right. Joannette, you know, I also would like you to talk about Old National and, you know, what are the customers or who are the customers you guys are serving as well?
So we serve the whole community, right? We serve, we focus on entry-level first-time home buyers. We've designed our very own down payment assistance, internal down payment assistance from our Old National Bank, which is a form of a grant. So it's forgivable immediately. There's no repayment to that. So that could be another options for our audience to explore. And we also do a one-time construction loan, etc. But again, we're focusing on the entry-level first-time home buyer and trying to provide options, tools that will make that payment affordable and that will make that first home a possibility today.
Awesome. Awesome. And again, I love all the answers. And we too, you know, I got to give a plug to Bremer. But we too, you know, we're also about helping people achieve the dream home ownership. You know, it's very important to us at Bremer. And this is one of the reasons why we partnered with Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity on the Home Loan Impact Fund. So this program started in 2017, and it's Habitat's largest banking partnership in the country through this fund. So we've been able to provide below market mortgages to more than 500 low to moderate income families across the Twin Cities. So, you know, we all have a passion. We all have products and programs. We all want to give people options when it comes to home ownership. I'm going to just kind of gear away from the questions, if that's okay, because I kind of want to get a little personal, you know, because we've all been in this business for a very long time. So I want everyone just to kind of share a feel-good story, you know, on someone that you worked with. It took a little while to get them to the promised land, but through your coaching, through your advising, through your mentorship, you got them to the cross. You got them to the keys of home ownership. And I'm gonna start with you, George, and then Tiffany, and then Joannette. You take the end there.
Yeah, thanks, Trent. A very, very recent deal is you know, it's always having in mind. It's such a good feeling. And like I mentioned in the intro, it's why we do this job. I was able to help a young man, 20 years old, in the Maplewood White Bear Lake area. His mother, unfortunately, came down with a serious illness and was currently in hospice. And he worked on his credit. We worked on his credit for around 6 months. At 20 years old, he was currently taking care of his 4-year-old sister, his 6-year-old sister, his mother, and his girlfriend. They were living in a one-bedroom trailer, mobile home. And last month, I'll throw a shout out if I could do that. Brandon Lee, one of my great real estate partners, we worked on this deal together over 6 months, and we were able to get this young gentleman and his whole family up to $90,000 through the first generational program in Ramsey County, St. Paul. partnered with Minnesota Housing, over $100,000 into his first home in St. Paul. And if I could share the pictures and put them up on the screen to see this young man at 20 years old taking care of his whole family achieve the goal of homeownership, it's just an amazing feeling. And we're currently working with him on furnishing the home, upgrading, repairs, working with, like we've mentioned, the resources, working out with all the resources to go green, to help with the windows, to help with the upkeep, to make the house energy efficient. And I feel like we'll be friends for a long time, myself and his family.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful feel good story.
Yes.
You know.
Try not to tear up, Mr. Bowman.
Yeah, you know, hey, you know, and I hope some of the people that are listening to this podcast, if that didn't get you emotional, then I don't know what will. But I think, Tiffany, you got a feel good story.
Yeah, George's story made me think of a client. So I had another client in mind, but George's story made me think of a client I helped a couple years ago, help Rondo do one of their first actual open market land trust deal. She was also in a mobile home, and she was deaf, had 2 children, and she wanted to achieve homeownership. Again, had an affordability issue similar to my current client, suggested her, sent her over to Rondo. They worked with her and got her a subsidy so that we were able to help her achieve homeownership. So that made me think of George and helping that family. But my initial thought was of a client who had spent 20 plus years in prison for a crime he did not commit. And he was later exonerated, and he wanted to achieve homeownership. He said all he wanted to do when he was in prison is have his own home. So he came to me looking to purchase a home with his wife. And when we took an application, there was a loan that he was unaware of. So they couldn't afford homeownership together because there was this loan. We worked on getting debt, down, and they came back a few months later, and he was able to achieve homeownership. Now, we had another hiccup because we had a delay. We had to repull his credit because typically it's good for 120 days. So we had to repull his credit. It had gone down. And it no longer met the qualifications. So now we need an exception. But we work, like we said, we're passionate about this, helping people achieve it. And if we can go the extra mile and get some things done for him to achieve it, we do that. So we got an exception because his credit score had gone down, and he was so happy at the closing time. I mean, crying. And it's not often that you see grown men cry, but he was crying and I was crying, and it was just one of the most, George pointed out, it is very rewarding work that we get to do in helping people achieve homeownership, especially those who were first generation homeowners like myself, didn't believe that they would be able to achieve it. So when we get to the closing table with those families, it is such a rewarding moment for us. So we appreciate the opportunity.
And there is crying in mortgage.
Yeah, there is crying.
There is crying in mortgage. It's allowed.
And sometimes it's bad crying, and most times it's good crying. But yes, for sure.
Joannette, tell us a feel-good story.
I love both of your stories, and so many feel-good stories in this industry. I mean, I can think of a few, but I would like to share this. Sometimes, as Trent likes to say, it's a slow yes, right? So with that, I've had many experiences where you stay in contact with that future homeowner for sometimes 3 months, 6 months, 18 months, sometimes even up to 3 years, to kind of guide them through and assist them along with the housing agencies and that pathway and that roadmap, right? Yeah. To get to homeownership. Those are always beautiful stories once you get to that closing table, right?
Right.
And so staying in touch for that, don't get discouraged. If you're not ready today, it's okay. Just get ready, be ready. There's lots of information for you to gather, see what you might be eligible for, see what we're offering now. Share and compare your options and get your own keys. Get into your own home.
Nice. This is the NARAB 5th podcast, and our topic, again, is Affordable Lender Showcase, down payment assistance and living opportunities for low to moderate income borrowers. And again, we just have a fantastic panelist of individuals that have just shared a feel-good story of some of the, of the process and how this works. It's a journey. Homeownership is a journey, and it may not take you 30 days to close. It may take 60, 120, and sometimes it takes a year. Now, I don't originate anymore, but when I did originate, I've had some feel-good stories. But for me, the best story or the best compliment to me is when I run into somebody that I've done their loan for many years ago, and they run up to me and they say, "Hey, you did my loan. I still have my house."
Yes.
Sustainable.
Sustainable. Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So we are coming to an end. Now, Tiffany, did you have one other thing that you wanted to add?
Joannette had mentioned staying in touch with your client and also connecting them with the home buyer partners. I just want to make sure the people listening truly get the opportunities to take home buyer education at no cost. So the nonprofit that we're all members of, NARAB, that's doing this podcast, we sponsor home buyer education. So for the consumer, it's at no cost. If you take that home buyer education with Model Cities in St. Paul, PPL, which is Project for Pride and Living, or PRG, both those two, PPL and PRG, are in Minneapolis. But you can take those classes at no cost. So get ready, be ready, go take that class at no cost with either of those fine nonprofits.
All right. We're going to go rapid fire here. Last question. We'll go rapid fire. And tell the audience what is something that you want people to remember about this podcast. Joannette, we'll start with you. Rapid fire. I
would say get informed. By getting informed is getting organized, getting in touch with resources that we have out there. In the state of Minnesota, we have lots of resources. You can start with us. We can point out some of the housing agencies that might be closest to you, accessible to you. They have flexible schedules for the Homestretch 8-hour course, which is a requirement for down payment assistance programs. And they teach them Saturdays, Sundays, during the week, and mornings, virtually, in person. There's many options. And we're also hosting a lot of community events throughout the summer and throughout the year. So please show up and get informed.
Nice. Tiffany.
I like for people to remember there are options, right? There are options for you. A lot of us stay away from the home buying journey because we think it's not for us. Maybe if you were like me, your family didn't own homes, so you may think home ownership is not for you, but we're going to be paying a mortgage regardless, right? So it's better to pay your own mortgage versus paying someone else's mortgage and helping them with their retirement plan, right? Go get your own mortgage and know that there are options for you to achieve home ownership. And as Joannette said, if you're not ready, we can connect you with the resource to get you ready so that you achieve that dream for yourself.
Nice. George.
Yeah. I think this may be my favorite question of the day. And we've mentioned resources, right? But there's something called that courageous conversation. You've mentioned, Tiffany, you may not have grown up seeing people owning homes, right? Take that courageous conversation, walk into a nonprofit, walk into a real estate office, walk into a market office, tell them you want the opportunity to buy a home. And I tell you right now, if you walk into a bank or a lender's office and they tell you no, get up and leave because you're in the wrong place. There are so many resources out there. You have the opportunity. Take that first courageous conversation, take that step, and walk towards your goal to homeownership.
I love it. And just remember, people, there's noise and then there's information. Listen to the information because the information will get you to homeownership.
I like that.
Take the noise out. Listen to the information. Again, NARAB's podcast, affordable housing, layering down payment assistance programs. We are concluding, but please look forward to our future podcast where we will continue to talk about building generational wealth through home ownership. Once again, I want to thank our panelists, George Gershon, Movement Mortgage, Tiffany Phillips, Bell Bank, Joannette Cintrón, Old National Bank, and I've been your host, Trent Bowman with Bremer Bank. It's been a pleasure. Good night, good day, and all that good stuff, and take care.
Thank you.
That was awesome. That was great.